Купи мне вещи. Пылесос для вашего кошелька. Пылесос для вашего кошелька.
Alright, okay, so this is an unlisted video on my channel. I am currently trying to decide on what circuit to build for this HT8950 voice changer circuit. Now, Velleman also makes use of this particular chip in one of its kits, and I just wanted to look and see what they have to say about this chip. Mind you, I'm looking at it right away, and I can see that it's the 8950A chip, which is the 16-pin chip, which unfortunately is not the one I'm using. It's a difficulty level 2. Oh, what the heck. I'll read the description. DIY voice changer electronic mini kit. Have you ever wanted to sound like a robot? Make your own voice changer with the Velleman MK171 voice changer mini kit. Use the pitch buttons to make your voice lower or higher. Add a vibrato effect. This kit is complete with a built-in microphone and amplifier, 1.5 watts at 4 ohms, and volume control. Attach your complete voice changer kit for full effect. What does that mean? Attach your complete voice changer kit for full effect? I don't understand. If you want more power, the voice modulator also includes a line out function, so you can plug it into your own amplifier. Although I think it has an amplifier. It looks like an amplifier. LM280, it's one of the LM386N, something like that. Use it for parties, plays, recordings, or part of your Halloween costumes or cosplay. Well, that's a new word that younger people are using. Makes me sound old. Modulate your voice to sound more robotic. Add vibrato to your voice and change your voice's pitch. Includes built-in microphone. Well, we read this. Output power 1. Okay. Power supply 9 volts. Okay, I want to know that. So I zoomed in on the instructions it has. And so yes, this is the 16-pin chip, which is not the one I'm using. But I do want to try and gather some insight into the type of amplifier chip they're using and how they have it set up. For instance, in this transistor amplifier circuit, they have the audio output on pin 9 with a bit of decoupling and things like that, which I get. And maybe decreasing the, input voltage a little bit before it's amplified. That makes sense. I get that. And then amplified, but the confusing thing to me is that they've tied in the amplifier with the power supply for the chip. So that's really the obstacle. Now I'm looking at the Velleman kit, and the only thing going into the amplifier, which is the LM386N, is this audio line, which is pin 12 on the 16-pin chip. And yeah, that checks out. Pin 16 or 16-pin dip, yeah, the audio. 18-pin dip, pin 9, sure. I don't want to say too much and get it wrong, but it looks like they create a type of voltage regulator at the beginning to create a power supply. They're saying 9 volts DC in, but then to me the Zener diode shows like, was that avalanche or forward breakover voltage that I guess keeps the voltage capped at 3 volts. Something like that. So now I might be able to do something like that. Okay, well, I forgot where I was as far as what I was explaining, but I'm on the Texas Instruments LM386 op-amp audio power amplifier datasheet, and it's got so many different versions of this chip. Alright, so yeah, there's so many different versions of this chip. Heck, I'll just read the description. The LM386M1 and LM386MX1 are power amplifiers designed for use in low-voltage consumer applications. The gain is internally set to 20 to keep external part count low, but the addition of an external resistor and capacitor between pins 1 and 8 will increase the gain to any value from 20 to 200. The inputs are ground referenced, while that's neat. You could put a trim pot in there, I guess. And capacitor between pins 1 and 8 will increase the gain to any value from 20 to 200. The inputs are ground referenced, while the output automatically biases to 1/2 the supply voltage. The quiescent power drain is only 24 milliwatts when operating from a 6-volt supply, making the LM386M1 and the other one ideal for battery operation. But what I really wanted to know is what the LM386N kind of power rating is, because there's all these different versions of the chip. Well, it's saying max power rating. Hold on. Now this is the information I want, the supply voltage. Max 15 to 22, and that's for the LM386N. Well, okay. But then the recommended operating conditions is, well, for the 386N-4, it's saying between 5 and 18, and the supply voltage minimum being 4 volts. So it might actually be possible to use a 4-volt supply, or 4.5-volt supply. And you might actually power both the LM386 and the voice modulator chip. Speaker impedance, that's important to know, 4 ohms. Here's a typical application, and what interests me is like how to adjust the gain on the chip. But now I'm really getting off topic, so I guess note to self, I could look up the data sheet and gain control, what does it say? It's a little more complex than I expected, so if I want to read this, I can maybe pause the video screen here. It talks about the gain control. Okay, pause the screen like now. Now. Or maybe now. I still have lots of questions about capacitive coupling and whether these two circuits have to have the same ground so that this signal will actually get passed to this IC. I'm not really explaining it very well, but this is something that keeps coming up over and over again that I need to find an answer to. But what I'd like to do, in simple terms, is maybe something like this. Build a 3-volt regulator, and heck, maybe build a couple at the same time so that I have them on hand. 3-volt regulator. Then build the circuit more or less how this is built here, although this is the 16-pin chip, whatever. And then build just this portion of the circuit and kind of leave this one hanging for experimentation, and maybe I can build a separate amplifier or tap this off for use with the telephone or CB radio, probably CB radio. So yeah, that seems like a plan on how I want to design this. And first I'd like to just solder a socket onto a PCB and kind of build this basic stuff. might have to buy some stuff, like some switches. And maybe I should make a separate little folder and include video files for later assembly.